guys, how you doing? Doing a review on the Equip hammock with bug net. Now I know some of you may say, hey, I've seen this hammock already in a few videos. Yes, you have, but I didn't review it. But in fact, it wasn't this hammock, it was another hammock that failed on. First bought the hammock, took it out on about 4 or 5 different campouts, loved it, slept well, bug net worked great. Like the 5th time I took it out, straps that hold the bug net up ripped out. The whole hammock flipped upside down, leaving me laying in the bug net. Yeah, rude awakening. I'm hoping this time it works a little bit better. I want to show you a few of the things that you need to be aware of if you do buy this hammock. Number one thing is when you set up the hammock, the tensioning rod they give you needs to go in the little sleeve here. When you tie your suspension rope up, which I don't think is quite long enough, I'm at about 12 feet between my trees, which they recommend 10 to 12, and I had to adapt the cord a little bit to get it to reach between the trees and give me the proper suspension, which is another issue with this hammock. As I was saying, my straps ripped out. When you run the cordage through the straps to your tree, make sure that this is not really taut, that you're not pulling tight on the bug net. You want to have some tension loose. It should not hold any of the weight or be any part of the suspension of the hammock. If you set in it and you feel the bug net pulling taut or the rope, you don't have enough slack in it. You need to loosen that up. That will rip these out. And the other thing is, do not tie to the rod itself. You're taking a big chance of the, I'm pretty sure that's just fiberglass rod snapping, and probably the same thing. It becomes very wobbly and you will flip upside down. As with many of the Equip hammocks, they come with just this rope as suspension, which you know, some people don't like running that just around the tree because of the damage it can do to the bark. But not only that, it's just not really good suspension to be hanging your hammock with. I mean, I've used it, but not crazy about it. So I'm using the Atlas straps instead. I've left this one here just to show you what they give you with the hammock. I've left it there as a strip line. Something I really like about this hammock is the ease of access. You have 2 zippers, one on the inside, one on the out. One here gives you plenty of room to get in. Easy access. And they have the same setup on the other side. So it's fairly easy to get into. It is a single person hammock. I'm not sure the actual dimensions off the top of my head. I will list that for you. I have the single and the 2-person hammock also from Equip, and I find this it's not quite as constricting as the single person, but it's not bad. I wish this came in a 2-person. It'd give you that little bit of extra room, maybe to get a diagonal lay. I'm not sure if that's not possible because of their hammock setup. I don't know if that would change the hang of it or the lay of it. But as far as the access, as I said, it's easy to get into. If you're going to use it for a chair, is a little I cannot talk. It is a little irritating having this, but if you're using it in an area that you're wanting to combat mosquitoes, flies, whatever, you're probably not going to have this open real long anyway. You're going to want to keep it zipped up as much as you can during the day before you crawl in. I'll give it another night's sleep, see how it does, and check back in the morning, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. See if I can finally recommend this hammock. We'll see. Don't leave me hanging again. Don't leave me hanging. Well, putting the tarp up reminded me of something that I really disliked on this hammock. There is no internal ridge line or a way to set one up. Well, There is. I'll get to that in a minute. But coming straight from the factory, there is no internal ridge line, and you cannot easily set one up. So if you're like me, somebody that wears glasses and you want to hang your glasses inside or a flashlight, there's no way to do that. And you know, just trying to stick your glasses off to the side, I've tried it. You end up sleeping on them. It doesn't work. You got a flashlight, you throw it in your hammock and try to sleep. Nature calls, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're looking for that flashlight. It's not good. But Bob Amos has a real cool mod if you don't mind cutting, sewing, stuff like that. If you're a real do-it-yourselfer, he's got a real cool mod on how to add an internal ridge line. Just one of them beasts that I have with it. Wish they would consider doing something different. Anyway, I guess the real test is going to be how it sleeps tonight. And well, how it sleeps all night if I get through the night, and if it sleeps well without me flipping over upside down again. We'll see. And hopefully I can end up recommending this hammock.
Oh man. What? You're still here? Where's my hat? Well, I see you got the fire going. You got coffee? Well, let me get some coffee and tell you what I thought. Learned a few things. Had to change a few things. But, yeah, let me get up and get that coffee and tell you about it.
Alright, I've had my coffee and my breakfast. Yeah, I got more coffee going. I think I need another cup. But my thoughts on the Equip one-person hammock with bug net. As I mentioned earlier, this is my second hammock of this style. The first one failed at the straps. They ripped loose from the bug net, causing the whole hammock to flip upside down, and I dropped into the bug net. If it wasn't there, of course I would have dropped down on the ground. But after trying this another time, there's a few things I learned. I'll tell you, but I want to first tackle that subject about the internal ridge line, which is a big flaw I see in this hammock. As a workaround for the lack of an internal ridge line, I placed an object, this happens to be my camera case, inside the outside pocket. That weighed down the hammock just enough to give me a small pocket here. In that pocket I placed my glasses, my wallet, and my flashlight. And they stayed there all night long. I did not wake up with them underneath of my sleeping bag. I would warn though that I would not consider putting a heavier object in this, as you risk putting too much stress on the bug net strapping, which was the failure of my first hammock. So this seemed to work pretty good. Anyway, that was my workaround. Let's get on to how I slept and some modifications I made in my sleep gear to make it a better night. Alright, in all honesty, the first hour and a half, possibly 2 hours, I was totally uncomfortable. I could not get comfortable to go to sleep. I had my gear floating around in there. I just could not get comfortable, could not get a good lay in the hammock. I just happened to find that pocket setup that I showed a minute ago, which allowed me to take my glasses and my flashlight and stuff, which were floating around in the hammock, and put them in that little pocket, if you would, or sleeve. I found out in my setup I did not have my hammock exactly the way I wanted it. First time using the Atlas straps on this hammock, I ended up taking my sleeping bag and flipping the head to foot and putting my head at the other end. That helped a little bit, but I still could not get comfortable. I was fighting my sleeping pad, and I'm using the Climate Static V Lite, which I love this in my tent. But in this hammock, it was all over the place. It was sideways. I fought it. I ended up putting it inside of my sleeping bag. Again, that made things a little better, but I was still fighting it. Out of desperation, I ended up letting about half the air out. Huge difference. I had it so inflated that it was taking up so much room. It was twisting around inside my sleeping bag. When I had it under the sleeping bag, it was sliding around inside the bag, or I'm sorry, inside the hammock. So deflating it helped quite a bit. Yes, you do lose some of your insulating value, but it was mid-60s last night. Really didn't need it a whole lot. It helped, but didn't need it a lot. So once I deflated the mattress pad, got my head in right, I fought trying to get a diagonal lay. Could not get it. I finally realized it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. So would I recommend this hammock? No. Based on my first experience with this style hammock. That first one I was really disappointed that it failed because of the bad stitching. I was disappointed that it left me hanging upside down in the hammock because of that fail. But I have to admit that yes, there was some bad stitching, but was that failure possibly my fault? I may have had too much tension on the bug net. I didn't get it on film. I wished I would have, so I could have checked to see if I did. My hammock was stretched out a lot further. Was that causing, again, tension on the bug net? Based on this second go around of this hammock, and having learned a little bit about the setup of it, I am happier with this hammock. Taking that knowledge of proper setup of this hammock and using it this time, I love this hammock. I slept like a baby. I never sleep like a baby in a hammock. Once I got my own gear straightened out, that is. Once I got my own gear straightened out, I was out. As I said, I was sleeping so flat at one point, I thought I was on the ground. So, would I recommend this hammock? Yes, I would recommend this as a great budget hammock. I don't think you can go wrong with this. Again, check the quality, check your proper setup. I don't think you can go wrong. Thanks for watching. Okay, you want me to quit beating around the bush. Bush.